Mart Berutti with Emerson. I'd like to introduce, I've got a number of true experts in the room here. The man walking up to us is Hasib Patel. He's our director of our Data Fabric and Analytics Initiative at Emerson. Mike Lester is the director of Cybersecurity Initiatives at Emerson. They're going to help me field questions or discussions. I've got a handful of slides. I'm tried not to overwhelm you with PowerPoint. I think we get enough this week, but what I want to do is kind of talk through some of the ideas and themes that we see going on in this wide open topic, very big topic of operational excellence, digitalization, and sustainability. And one thing I wanted to kind of get through our discussion point here and how we walk through this is, what are we seeing in the industry? And when we talk to clients across industries, what are their big topics? And, what do they want to talk about? And what high-level concerns do they have? And I see it time and time again that they are very interested in how they can support the need for OT-IT convergence, the data convergence upon the plant floors, which is challenging and difficult. We're overwhelmed with data, but our need to move it to the clouds and move it to our business systems in a consistent and manner, and to be able to have that data in a contextualized, consistent manner is greater than ever before. So that's a key aspect of what we see. Another one is this whole discussion around autonomous operation or remote operation. And, autonomous is a vision. It is a goal. Are we going to get to the point in my career of fully autonomous plants? I kind of doubt that. But the drive towards autonomous systems and the ability to have these systems of systems that are built upon good automation, but then also analytics, data integration, good alarm management, all sorts of other things give us great capability to drive along this goal of better operations and better sustainability. And then so sustainability falls into the third category that people want to talk about. What do you have to help us with sustainability? And these three, in my opinion, are very intertwined with each other. They are interrelated, they are tied together, and by addressing one, and we do it in a smart manner, we can address the others. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of talk through four different aspects of what I see in this field of operations excellence, digitalization, and sustainability. First of all, how do you start strong? And if you sat through Dustin Olson's presentation on PureCycle, you got a great example of how to start strong. The digitalization of greenfield capital projects is the way to go, and we'll talk about some of the values you get by going that, and also some of the things we're doing to take it a step further on additional capital projects. And next, how do we measure green? How do we use data management and analytics to track energy efficiency, energy management, carbon, and water management as well? How do we use analytics to predict the future, to move to emissions monitoring and other things instead of doing continuous emissions monitoring systems based upon analyzers? How can we bring in predictive emissions monitoring? And finally, just a great topic that I'm very interested in and we'll discuss is what does a green plant look like? And then how does that operation performance and digitalization overplay with that? So 4 little topics here. My goal is to move through it relatively quickly and then leave plenty of time for us to discuss and to have Hasib and Mike and other experts that are going to be joining us weigh in on their thoughts as well. And of course, we want to hear your thoughts too. So let's dive into it. First of all, again, I don't know if I can add too much on the high level on the digitalization of capital projects, but really the big value here is by going with a born digital approach, a digital ready approach to capital projects, you decrease deployment cost and increase profitability. Three great visuals here of not investing, investing after startup, and investing during design, which is the Born Digital case, and the value for each one, the lost revenue and opportunity and profit if you don't take advantage of it. I think this really is the best practice when we look at new investments, new capital investments in greenfield capital projects. And one of the things that we're working on right now is, on top of other things, I think that Dustin mentioned earlier of the data fabric or data hub integration, that OT data layer across the plant, the use of prescriptive analytics and asset performance management from beginning in there, the master data list and contextualization around your assets and the digital twin. These are all portions of this Born Digital. But one of the things I like to call it conceived digital, to take a step further into the design aspect and use business performance modeling technology to really predict future performance of the plant. And this is not a new concept. We've used this type of concept for RAM analysis, reliability analysis for quite a while. But then we apply it to production. And then one of the new things is applying it to emissions optimization and carbon capture prediction so that we can make better choices from a sustainability standpoint about how we design and build these plants. And the same model that we developed for looking at plant design and looking at reliability analysis now can be just extended further to that. A great new concept and something we're very excited about. And then taking a step further on that is tying that into your online asset performance management, your online analytics, and then getting a better idea of predicting emissions and energy events and incursions, and taking into account equipment outages and other things to plan for that as well. In other words, back in the old automation space, we're closing the loop. We're taking real-time data, updating our business performance models, and using that to really predict better what we're going to do in the future. So again, capital projects, having that born digital ready approach is really a best practice we see. Another best practice is measurement. How do we measure what's going on? And the energy management information system approach is really what we feel is the best use of digitalization, operational excellence, and then sustainability, again, all tied together. Basically, we do our baseline energy models, and on top of that, add the predictive models to be able to look at dynamic energy. We have event notification. We have dashboards that are telling us what's going on within our energy notification. But then the additional thing is, when we have an issue, we are able to follow that through a root cause analysis and give us guidance to fix the problem using the aspect of analytics that would include asset templates and FMEA and RCA type of analysis. One of the capabilities we see in this emissions monitoring aspect is carbon dashboards. Really being able to look at carbon tracking across the dashboard for reporting purpose, or across the enterprise for reporting purposes, and then also use it for continual improvement and driving to those net zero goals overall. One example of this energy management is a large project we did for the Abcake site, really a site-wide energy monitoring, taking everything from the power generation, combustion gas turbines, to the steam generation side, and then tying into some of the production plants as well with a combined energy management system that's doing everything from steam and energy optimization tracking, but then also in the future carbon tracking as well, with fantastic documented savings of $22 million per year in this case. So now we've gone from, on the existing plants to measuring. Another way we like to see this convergence of operational excellence, digitalization, and now sustainability is around emissions monitoring. I'm an old analyzer guy, so I really have a long I have a very strong favor towards the top solution here of continuous emissions monitoring systems, but I got to admit, they're not the best way potentially to do it nowadays. Fairly extensive mechanical system with the gas sampling systems, cleanup, gas extractions, running through analyzers, which are complex, sometimes prone to large maintenance issues, and then getting measured emissions. So moving to a predictive emissions monitoring system is really a best practice. And we have that available now through first principle based models and then data-driven models. It's a hybrid approach that allows us to get very good, accurate predictions of emissions from essentially simple, basic measurements we're getting from the ICSS. We take, first of all, historical process data, historical emissions, apply that to the first principles models that tune those, and then run those together. And then we have what is really a fairly simple, soft system overall to get our predicted emissions. Again, we start off with just temperatures, pressures, and flows, probably the most reliable measurements we have within the plant. And then we do sensor validation on that, run these through the emission models, and then end up with emissions predictions, reporting, data logs, and then also deviation alerts. But the other thing too, as compared to sample times through sampling systems, and then of course the analyzer times as well, is the time required to get real-time information is very quick here. It's a very fast update, which gives us much more ability to respond to excursions and understand what's happening in the plant and move much quicker. One of the extensions of this then is beyond just going through and monitoring those variables and then looking at asset health and performance, because it would be tied into our asset performance management systems. Is also to get to that asset root cause identification. So if we have an emissions issue, we can then look through the RCA models and determine what the probable sources of those are. In this case, it could be our turbine here that is our cause overall, and also gives us an ability to manage our emissions and do future guidance. And we've tied that back to that business modeling system. Again, closing the loop gives us great capabilities to have additional insights into our plant and work better in the future. An example of our PIMs on a recent project was an FLNG project. We did gas turbines, boilers, gas engines, flare, thermal oxidizers, really the full aspect of the energy block or the utilities block of the plant, and did a CO2, methane, carbon monoxide, NOx and SOx. The real benefit, incredible benefits, because not only lower capital cost from a procurement standpoint, but the installation costs are, in a software solution, of course, are going to be much lower than putting in a electrical system that has to have a mechanical extraction and injection from the plant, and a lot of complication. Deployment is fast. Deployment, I say, in weeks instead of months. I mean, a SIM system, depending upon the requirements and fitting into the plant schedules, could be even longer than that. And of course, maintenance is much lower. And then availability. For the most part, our availability is dictated by our server or our infrastructure availability. And so it's not tied into the availability of the analyzers and other things. And, online analyzers have come a long ways to be able to take an FTIR and then maybe do a firmware update on it and get additional insights into the waveforms and everything being analyzed. But our models and our PIM system are very easily updated and extensed. You can make them extensible to new applications, new parameters, and bring in new measurements as your machine learning and other things become more extensive. So again, we've walked through digital capital projects, the aspect of monitoring and measuring energy management, and now prediction of energy management. And I want to tie this together, if I can, a little bit on just an example that I see that's very exciting around green renewable diesel and what we're doing in green plants. I don't know, does anybody here work for an organization that's putting in a renewable diesel facility or has a renewable diesel? Oh, fantastic. Man, great. Well, you know all this stuff then. You can give the class on it. I'm, as somebody with, I like to say I have a chemical engineering degree. I'm not a chemical engineer, but as somebody with a chemical engineering background, I really am very excited about this initiative and what's going on here. You know, we have a lot of drive to look at alternate fuel sources beyond traditional fossil-based fuel sources. And of course, biofuels are one of those. In general, there are different types of biofuels. There's the ethanol. I think most people have known about that. It's mainly made from fermenting corn or other type of starch type products. You've got biodiesel, which is traditionally made from sometimes from waste oil or other crops, and has some value and can be blended into regular diesel as well, just like ethanol can be blended into a gasoline. And then you got renewable diesel or green diesel. And the green diesel or the renewable diesel is really exciting because it is really pretty much interchangeable with ultra low sulfur diesel. And it actually has a lower sulfur content in general, up to 85% less sulfur and greater power and efficiency. So on most modern cars, it is a direct replacement for diesel. And a diesel cost right now, that's a pretty good thing. It also qualifies for a lot of federal incentives and tax incentives. So we see that the renewable or green diesel market is going to increase dramatically over the next 5 years. A lot of interest going in. You know, the value too is renewable diesel can be made from a lot of different things that are non-edible feedstocks. One of the typical areas or feedstocks for it is this used oil and inedible oil that you also can use to build biodiesel. But beyond that, you can go into energy crops, municipal food waste, other things, with a very high reduction in life cycle greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a very exciting industry going on right now. But you got a lot lower greenhouse gas emissions, but you also have a lot more operational issues. One of the big issues we get with a lot of green fuels applications, and I think Dustin was talking about that, the work that they have to do at Pure Cycle to get a good feedstock and consistent feedstock is the feedstock. The feedstock has contaminants. It's inconsistent. The quality can come from a lot of different things. So that causes, when you're trying to run this through a hydrocracker or a hydro unit, it's going to cause a large variety of issues of running through there, just from running the chemistry, building the control strategies, and the aspects of bringing in different contaminants and the corrosion that they may also bring to the aspect there. The other thing is we have a whole logistics thing. We have to be able to measure a lot of different variables in there in order to get the renewable credits and tax credits that we want to make this feasible and to maximize the value of the asset. So a lot of operational issues. And if anything, this is another application for that born digital, to be able to start off with that digital infrastructure of capturing all the OT data and being able to do the analytics and other things on top of it, and have a more smart and more agile plant. So in general, digitalization is a great approach for increasing green diesel margins and sustainability. So one of the things we talk about a lot in the digital transformation side in business is the use of a data hub or data fabric, an ability to have this OT data that links all the different disparate data sources within the plant, tie those together, contextualize it, bring it into an asset model, and bring it in a manner that you can have a consistent single source of truth for all your data within the plant, organized by your assets. That, in the case of renewable diesel, this is a great capability then to automate the reporting and have a centralized place for getting the reporting for both the IRS, EPA reports, in the case of different states, other reports, and then third-party validations. Then taking that same data approach and then putting prescriptive analytics on top of it gives us the ability to have a smarter approach to optimize feed changes. So by doing that, we can have a more smooth transition as we move through the feed changes, look at different operational parameters, set point changes, and reduce our lower valued byproducts, which is a huge capability, moving more into the higher value diesel stream. And then also increasing the margin overall. And then by that energy management and information system approach, again, that's layered on top of this data hub with the analytics area, this whole digitalization approach, it allows us to increase our margin, but also decrease the carbon intensity by looking at our data overall, monitoring it, improving it, and reducing our overall cost in the application. So again, a quick tour, and we still have plenty of time left for discussion. So far so good. But just wanted to get you all thinking about the different ideas and uses of digitalization, digitalization, operations excellence, and then sustainability. In our opinion at Emerson, these are intertwined, they are complementary, and your investment in digital transformation will support meeting all these initiatives. So, questions, comments, or your thoughts? So Haseet and Mike are going to be out there to bring people in. I've got also a couple other experts in the room. Mike Brooks, who's still standing, is our expert from Aspen Tech on asset performance management and machine learning. So I asked him to join us as well. I think I've got all my backup people that keep me from getting into trouble out here. Anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Yeah.
Mart, thank you. Yeah, Mart, thank you. I'm maybe the only person here as old as Mike, so I just want to compliment you on a good presentation. I think, and I've always thought of Emerson as a leader in this journey to autonomous operation, particularly in things like offshore rigs, which are largely autonomous in nature, but things like wind and renewables in general, EV charging station networks, all those are examples in a CapEx world of really we're beyond it. Those are from scratch, fully integrated, nearly autonomous, certainly optimized around that concept. And 99% of the world isn't any of that. So the bigger challenge is how do you apply any of all these very cool, highly relevant technologies into the brownfield world where, again, owner-operators are a mixture of M&A, and so no two plants are alike, and they got 100 of them. And so I think the world's all gommed up in business case problems and how do we get there, not can we. I really believe that we had demonstrated in the CapEx world best in class of everything.
Right.
But reknitting the world in the real world is what seems to be the holdup for everybody.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll say a comment, then I'll ask maybe Haseet to jump in there as well. I think when we look at a brownfield site, we need to tie that back to a digital maturity model where we start off with assessing where we are and where we think good looks like, and then a digital maturity assessment then allows us to then look at the steps required to get there, and also tie the precursors together. If I do this first, if I let's say if I invest in a data hub right now, and what will that do? Or maybe I should look at state-based control for this unit, or these units that are my high-value units. Maybe I need to address, first of all, alarm optimization. But in the brownfield site, we don't have the ability to reknit everything. We can't take it down to threads and put it back together. We have to work with the pieces and the sins of our past as well, and that digital maturity model approach to walk through that plan is one that we've used in a number of places, and it's been extremely helpful to put that plan together. Haseeb, what else you?
Great point there. One thing I can add is data. As Mart mentioned, getting the data right, data model right. So data modeling, we used to do modeling based on what we need. So the concept of KPI-based modeling is very important. So our clients are putting KPI models. So in control world, we say you can't control if you can't measure. So measuring is first. A lot of data, I think Dustin kind of made the point as well. You gotta make sure the data is trustable. How do you trust your data? So curating the data, I think cleansing portion we talked today as well. But foundation of data is everything. And you'll see that across the whole theme of presentations and sessions we do. And brownfield sites, that's what we help clients with. There's two things in brownfield. One is the measurements are missing. We call missing measurements. We did project with many companies, and they want to do all this machine learning, AI stuff Nathan was mentioning, but I don't have measurement. How do I get vibration data, or how do I get acoustic or level or reliable flow data from my system? So we have a broad range of technologies we offer. For pervasive sensing, wireless technologies, it lets you quickly get your measurements right and reliable, long-term measurements, so they don't drift, they don't give you fake readings, because as we say, garbage in, garbage out. So you don't want to get all garbage sensing data and then make decisions which are not right. So sensing is big for us, and that's why Emerson's strength. I think this morning I couldn't write down fast enough what Dustin was saying, but why he selected Emerson was the same reason. From sensor to my data layer and up, I got one throat to choke, and that's Emerson. So having control capabilities, having measurement capabilities, having to understand what this analyzer means, having that SME available to understand what those gas constituents means, So that's kind of what we approach with brownfield. 99% of work we do for last 2-3 years is brownfield. So definitely that's our holy grail. Not many new plants being built except the pure cycles or some biodiesel plants or some renewable energy plants. It's all operate the plants we have. Either it's Lyondell or Chevron or Exxon or any other companies, BSF. So great point, yeah. But that's what we do. Thanks. Any other question? If anybody has something works better for them, I know Mart did a very good job of showing a Aramco example. When you have large energy consumption and there is no reason for them to be sustainable. This is back 7 years back, 6 years back. They're in middle of desert and they have energy that they don't know what to do with. But having that goal, starting that early journey was a very good approach by a large company like that. So.
Well, I'll ask a question. Anybody volunteers here of what's everybody's got one. Okay, let's all confess. We all have digital transformation initiatives. If somebody in our organization has the role of the director of digital transformation, they may report through the IT area, which may be good or maybe not good, and or they may be someplace else. But when you look at your transformation initiatives, what are the ones that are number one priorities that you see right now? Anybody? Getting the people on board. That is a huge issue. Do you want to get a microphone over there? So, if you don't mind, what are you doing to support that?
We're changing the way that we use software. We're coming out of an R&D area where it's a desktop-based software. We're moving that into the cloud so that we can help operations. But having even inside of our own company change, our own internal message so that our external message is even louder.
Yeah.
Is pushing that I believe button that it can be done, and B, it can be useful. So actually saying to not only my customers but internally, how does it benefit you as a person? If you're in a plant, are you going to be able to make your KPIs better? Are you going to be able to increase safety? Can you, directly point this? And getting those people on board for that technology change is huge. And it's, in my opinion and in my experience, has been the biggest part of anything. You can put on all the technology you want and make all the change, but if you're not improving a process and helping your people excel, your technology isn't going to benefit anybody.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest part of digital transformation for me is people.
So I love the technology. Whoa, I don't know how that all happened, but I love the technology aspect, but I think probably the best thing we do is help people drive through that model. Again, the digital maturity model. And here's a plug. If you go digital maturity model Emerson, there's a little called Quick Index where you can put your own organization, think about where you are right now, where you want to go, and it'll give you the spider chart and everything, and you can say, okay, here's where I'm going, and here's where I want to go, and here's some ideas to plan. I do it, with my mythical plants that I run myself. I'm CEO of nothing, and it's very fun. But that aspect of planning where you are right now, where you go, and then how your workforce and your team is going to accept the technology implementation and really transform. That's critical. Yeah. Good.
Hello. Thank you, Mart. I want to add to something that you said, and you said it, but you didn't say it in the way that I would. The objective is not digital transformation. The objective is to get something done, and understanding what you need to get done is more important. The digital transformation is the mechanism to get it done.
I would agree with that completely, Mike. Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, what we're really tying back to is operational improvement. And of course, that goal of sustainability. I mean, as chemical engineers, as process control and IT and people, I think we have a phenomenal ability to help our industry and whether we're in the industry or we're working for the industry, help the industry become more sustainable. Technology has incredible ability to make that change. So how do we get that done? Yeah.
I have a client I work with, and they don't call their projects transformation projects. They call them doing something projects, And that was a good thing, because before transformation, everybody got scared of digital and transformation both together, because nobody likes change. We all say we do, but nobody don't like it, So not having the change force on, but doing something, achieving a goal was a good objective. And second one is, I think, clients which are successful that I work with, they start small. They start with experiments. They start small, and they show the result. And it's like following, when the cell phones came originally, I didn't like them because, it's just a big brick to charge every 2 hours. But, we saw people using it, and there was small use cases developed, and now finally I can't even live without one, like everybody else here. So I think having the transformation happen, one, again, repeating Dustin's point, keeping it simple. I've seen many transformation projects, probably 80-90% of them fail because they're very complicated. You need a degree in Python programming to do something. When you do that, if you provide a manual, as Dustin mentioned, you're failed. If you have to provide a 150-page PowerPoint manual, like he mentioned this morning, your project is failed, because it will not pass the muster with common average user who's going to use the system. So I think that's a couple of things I've been noticing, which makes it successful. Good point.
How many of end users here or operators? How many people do we have? Any operators? I know we got the green diesel guy. He's left already. All right. Any other owner? Okay. Any energy management information system implementations, or either ongoing or planned? None right now. Okay. Anybody? Any war stories? So we only have one end user here, so we're not going to necessarily muddy the water. Anybody want to throw out some really terrible war stories of where they've tried to implement, an operational improvement, a digitalization, or a sustainability initiative, and it blew up on you? Come on, get some dirt out here. All right, let's go. Let's make it ugly.
No, I'd actually rather give success stories because the young lady had it right. Change is the core problem, not technology. And I lived in Perth for a few years and had the pleasure of being involved in a whole bunch of really large-scale things. And all of them succeeded largely on better governance than I'd seen in the past.
Okay.
IT-OT convergence is oversimplified. OT is engineering and operations and cyber operations in operations. IT is more than people in a data center. And so there's lots of constituencies that are not always represented from the beginning.
Right.
The automation vendors are often seen as a buyout, not a partner. And so, again, in really well-run big operations, governance was the key. Get everybody who has a stake in the success in from the beginning. You build buy-in, you build trust. You can't like donut and workshop your way to big success.
I love that idea of governance because some of the best, we've even run into I'm going to spill some dirty secrets here. We've had a couple projects over our history that haven't gone too well. And almost every time when we've done that in space and environment, it's because we didn't have a good governance and buy-in governance. And governance to me brings in leadership as well as the project management, so that we have full communication of goals and we're moving and the resources are applied to meet that requirement. We have transparency through the organization. And then when we reapplied like a governance model on top of that for these projects that were failing, we found all of a sudden we started to get back on track. So it wasn't necessarily that the technology was failing. It wasn't necessarily that the people weren't good underneath. We just didn't put the structure in place to make them succeed to begin with. And so that overlay of that governance, I think, is really huge. Yeah, thank you for that. Hey, Mike, you want to, let this gentleman talk.
Yes, I work for Kimberly-Clark, and we make tissue products.
Okay.
So tissue is probably one of the most energy-intensive products you can make if you look at it by weight, because 98% of the water has to be removed. A lot of it is through energy. So I'm actively actually leading work to look at what we need to do to optimize energy. And really for us, it's the arbitration of electrical energy versus natural gas.
Yeah.
And automating decision-making for time of day, cost, whether it be on the spot market or whether it be on long-term contracts. So the challenges that I face actually is from the vendor side. And it's part of the reason why we've been slow to actually do anything at the moment. And my general comment is most of the vendors, and some of these are big players that we have talked to, they come across as oversimplifying the problem and over-committing on the value that they can create.
Sure.
And so there's a trust gap in how much actually we would benefit versus the effort, because there's no easy button. But again, in a lot of the conversations I've had with big vendors, that's the tone. And so we sort of back off saying there's not a reality. They're not grounded in the reality of the effort it takes. So just a general comment.
I think that's a really good lesson, and we should listen to as well. Yeah, the complexity is always is understated and underappreciated until you stick your head into it further and understand what you're dealing with. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I work in the fishing industry, and sort of experience I want to share is, as we're developing on the digital transformation, we've got around about 100 projects, which are like picked up from all the users. So we did a top-down approach first to like capture from the users what they wanted to do. Now, what we're seeing is that with so many projects, they're born from an individual in a particular area or one subject area in the company. and their vision is usually limited to what they're actually seeing. So the experience, what we're seeing is we need to invest a lot of time in scoping exactly what is the project.
Yeah.
So really trying to work with the individuals, with different people who have a more global vision, because we're seeing so many of the projects are like mushrooms. When they start at the beginning, something like in a local area,
Right.
but as they start to explore and then they start to talk to other people, they realize, oh yeah, but that could also interact with this and with that and with this and that. And if you haven't done the scoping correctly at the beginning to really understand the full possible sort of transversal sort of aspects of the project and how it could interact with all the different areas, you can suddenly start going down the path, and 3 months later you suddenly realize that your project is, not one piece, it's like 50 pieces. So this initial scoping, we're doing a lot of time investing on this initial scoping right at the beginning to really try and see what the different interests are, what the different needs are, what the business needs are, what's the business strategy, prioritize, and really establish the project right, the scope of the project right from the beginning, very carefully.
Right, yeah. The upfront planning and making sure you have it tied to a value creation and what that value creation is going to be and how you get there, for sure.
Hey, Mark, again, thanks for your presentation.
Sure.
Again, I'm Kavesh. Like we discussed, my team, all of us at SRNS, we are trying to kind of like expand the Delta V footprint. So we are going with Delta V as the DCS system of choice. But one of the things that it has many good things and we are getting through it. But one of the things that we are struggling with is like we are trying to do version 11 to version 14 upgrade. And that comes with Delta V Live graphics enhancement package and other many good things. But what we are struggling right now is to get it through our cyber team because the baseline that Emerson puts out does not match what is the installer is doing. So
Right.
we are kind of like going through that. So many of these solutions I get just as a feedback. I think it's a great product, but maybe cybersecurity side also we need to pay more attention because our being a government side, there's more insight on it.
That's a great comment because I was going to ask Mike to wrap us up here with a real down note about cybersecurity. So, yeah.
I would, for this audience, I would say that cybersecurity is much like, it has to be part of the journey. It has to start as, the foundation, the architecture, and really, be part of the journey with all the stakeholders involved throughout the entire digital transformation process. And it's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work. Just like digital transformation, there has to be adaptability from the user base, as well as enabling feature sets throughout the entire process. KPIs, much like the rest of it as we go through operations. So I think that's what I would leave you with. Make it part of the journey. Start it off foundationally and get the stakeholders, IT and OT. And I like what Sid did on Monday from a presentation, the unification of that, right? Whether you're doing IT-OT collaboration, IT-OT convergence, or IT-OT unification in that from an operations perspective.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're out of time. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you all for the comments.